All right. Gabe, are you ready in the back?
Hell yeah.
Mike, are you ready over there?
I'm ready.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Glass Half Sports. Today is July 7th. I hope everybody enjoyed their 4th of July weekend. I know me and Mike had the opportunity to get up to the lake and enjoy what we assumed was going to be a little bit of sunshine, but just turned out to be cloudy, cruddy, northern Minnesota midsummer weather, which is accurate with the status of sports right now, which is just kind of dreary because there's not a whole lot going on in the month of June or July, as we are just 63 days away from NFL football. I am one half of your hosting duties, as always, Nick Huffman, and joined, as always, by my trusty co-host, Mike Mensing. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having the fam damly up at the cabin this weekend.
The whole fam damly.
Yeah, like you said, it was unfortunate, the weather that we got, but honestly, sometimes it's nice to just get away.
Yeah.
And get a break. And I'm thinking it's possible that's the case with sports currently too. Sometimes you need to be able to get away from the excitement a little bit to understand what you do have when sports is in full swing.
Well, just know, folks, while all of your other favorite sports shows, aka the Pat McAfee Show and Rich Eisen and Ian Rappaport and everybody else that covers sports is on vacation, me and Mike will be right here to fill you in on everything that's going on, even if there is nothing that's going on every week. Mike, what platforms can they find us on if they would like to just come on over to this side of the wall, because we don't take breaks over here?
No, we don't. Like always, guys, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, YouTube, Patreon, and we do have a Twitch,
which Mike shall be on shortly.
We're actually gearing up to get that live. So
yeah, Glass Half Gaming.
Yes, sir.
So what do we have for the folks today?
As always, we do have a big show, even with sports having a small lull. So we are going to talk Twins check-in. So we actually have 2 weeks to do.
But about 2 weeks, yeah.
We're going to talk about a new guy in town for the Timberwolves.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple new guys, actually.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do our UFC recap.
Yes.
And I'll actually try to participate in that one a little bit.
Oh, okay.
And then we have our AFC West predictions. And if we have time at the end of the show, we'll do our Hot Corner segment.
Yeah, we got like 3 random things that happen that we should possibly touch on. But we can start with recapping what's been going on in the clubhouse of the Minnesota Twins. Please table your disdain for Byron Buxton's batting average there, Michael.
It's 218, by the way, if you didn't know. He's batting 218.
He also has 22 homers and has played more. We're not going to start this. But the team has been good. Good to see them back in first place after they were kind of injury riddled there for the month of June. Joe Ryan went down. Sonny Gray hasn't been right. Jorge Polanco goes 10-day IL. Correa was still getting back. Obviously, we're still getting a limited version of Byron Buxton. Kirilloff was down at AAA for a while. So just some different things that they were dealing with. But the big bats are back and healthy. And same thing with the young arms. They are back and healthy. Smeltzer, Ryan, even guys like Chris Archer playing well. Through the pre-4th of July break and kind of coming off of that. What have you seen from the team so far as they've recaptured first in the AL Central?
That was something that we talked about at the beginning of June as well, was that the month of June in and of itself was somewhat difficult.
Yes.
So going into the month of June, I believe we had a 4-game lead in the Central. Coming out of the month of June, I believe it's a 4 to 4.5 game lead.
3.5.
3.5. So throughout a tough schedule in the month of June, we actually only lost a half game. And I actually feel pretty dang good about that.
Yeah, especially considering at one point in the month we were 3 games back.
Right.
So there was a little bit of a swing there that we like to see.
Right.
For sure.
The one thing that's holding this team back, compare it to other teams that are leading their division, we are the 6th best team out of those 6 teams.
Yep.
The biggest thing that's holding them back currently is bullpen.
By a mile.
So I was thinking about this. Do you think we could call the Padres? We'll offer them Pagan and Paddock for Rogers.
Oh.
You think they'd do that?
Probably not.
Probably not. It's
okay.
Unfortunate. I wonder why they wouldn't do that.
And probably because they knew going into this that they were getting the better end of that deal, much like a trade we're going to talk about later to begin with.
But yeah, honestly, that's the biggest thing that I've seen is bullpen. Bats are hot. Starting pitchers are definitely decent enough. The only, I guess, it's kind of a double-sided coin because the starting pitching is good enough, but it's also not going deep enough.
Yeah.
And then the bullpen is probably the worst in baseball or close to it. So we're giving the ball over to the bullpen earlier than most teams, and then our bullpen is also worse than most teams. That's not a winning combination, even when you have good bats.
Yes, Mr. Pollard, you are correct.
I just saw him doing the trade thing, so I'm just a little late on it. That's all.
But my question about this comes in the form of, I know we've got a lot of really good young pitching talent, even going down to like low A ball. If you've been paying attention to what the Twins farm system looks like for pitching, is it not time, if our middle relievers and our long relievers can't get it done, to go, hey, Balazovic and Simeon Woods Richardson and some of these other guys, we're going to call you up. You're going to take on a bullpen role and really start to get you some MLB experience out of the pen, knowing we're probably not going to have Sonny Gray next year. Probably not going to have Chris Archer next year. Probably not going to have some of these other starters to back up Smeltzer and Ryan and Paddock if he comes back. So let's get you some work and see if, because that's got to be an improvement over the bullpen help that we have now.
I don't think it's a bad idea, because even if they perform the exact same way that our bullpen is performing now, they're getting those lumps out of the way.
Exactly.
They're putting it under their belt. They're learning. They're expanding their career from there, instead of using guys who are maybe a little bit longer in the tooth.
Yep.
And are having those same sort of struggles. So I don't think that would be a horrible idea, actually. One thing I do want to comment on is, even though the bullpen has been shaky, I would say the Twins are actually very fun to watch, and that has continued over the past 2 weeks.
Buy some tickets is what Mike's saying.
I mean, or just catch them on Peacock or Apple TV or whatever weird streaming platform they're playing on tomorrow.
Yeah, you can watch them on the cock.
Nick really wanted that one.
Christ.
So let's turn to the upcoming games. We've kind of recapped the past couple weeks.
Yeah.
Do you want to shout out any players really quick over the past 2 weeks?
Well, yeah, we had our clubhouse leaders up there. Correa leads the team in home runs over the last 15 days. Kirilloff, surprisingly, 12 RBIs, 12 plus RBIs over the last 15 days. Arise, 19 hits in 15 days. Who's fucking surprised about that? And then, believe it or not, Smeltzer's been the best pitcher. 3 earned runs over 13 innings and 2 wins for a guy that, we admitted this is the year he's going to kind of have to decide whether or not he's going to be a rotation piece. Pitching well.
I know that Smeltzer really doesn't like the pitch clock in AAA, and maybe it's just that little extra motivation that he needed to make sure that he stays up.
Yeah, true. So team's playing well. And then Byron Buxton should be in the home run derby, regardless of his average batting average.
He should be in the ground out derby.
I was going to say, it would be fun to see him in the home run derby, but he's going to ground out to short quite a bit.
Yeah. All right. Game's coming up. I know that we have a short series against the Rangers on the road before we return home to do the 2-game border battle against the Milwaukee Brewers, before I believe our next opponent would be the White Sox in that game. With a 3.5 game lead. Mike, expectations for these next 5 games in 6 days, or 5 games in 6 days?
Rangers are below 500 right now. They're sitting at 37-43. They're third in the AL West.
They've got some guys that can get you, though.
I mean, 37-43 is, not a horrible team.
No.
A couple games here and there, they're sitting 500 or better.
Right.
With that, though, we need to take advantage of who they are. They're a third to middling place team in their division, and we need to win the series for sure. 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I would agree there. And then take I would say 1 of 2 games against the Brewers. Brewers are a good team.
They are. I was looking
with
for their
some
exact record
lights
currently.
out pitching.
So they are 47-37. So very similar record to our hometown team. It is at home. Yeah,
just take one.
For sure, one. Why not sweep them? Go for it.
Okay.
Why not? We're at home.
Because we're probably going to get like Corbin Burns and their second best pitcher, they're both Cy Young candidates.
Okay.
That will be tough.
Cy Young candidates have lumps during the season. Maybe we can make it against us.
That's true. So it's good, though. That would mean inching closer to the All-Star break with a 4 to 5 game lead in the AL Central.
If we go into the All-Star break, with a 4 to 5 game lead, I'm very confident.
Then you make the trades that need to be made.
It does put us in a good spot to keep Correa throughout the season.
Yes.
Versus
and keep Correa into next season.
5 games under. And down the stretch, it would be very nice to see, maybe we don't have to wait until September to see some of those young names pop up in the bullpen.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So let us know what you guys think about the current status of the Minnesota Twins and how do they do in the next week?
Yeah, now let's argue a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to have to do that. So, Minnesota Timberwolves, stand up, sit down, because none of us are all that excited. We can start with the big news, which started as a rumor damn near 3 months ago. The Minnesota Timberwolves made some moves, the first of which for Rudy Gobert. The trade consisted of Patrick Beverly, clubhouse and locker room leader. Vanderbilt, attitude and hustle guy. Malik Beasley, who we both agreed should probably have gone. And then, 3 or 4 first-round picks for a 33-year-old with a hefty price
30.
tag, or 30-year-old. He'll be 33 by the end of the contract. That is good, not great. I'll let you start before I absolutely rip this to shreds.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay. Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverly, Walker Kessler, and Jared Vanderbilt. Not one of those guys started games for the Timberwolves last year. They were all role players.
Okay.
Role players are easily replaceable, especially Malik Beasley. Patrick Beverly is a great culture piece to have, but he can be a detriment as well, and we did see that in the playoffs. Walker Kessler, his absolute top ceiling potential is maybe Rudy Gobert.
Okay. And
then Jared Vanderbilt, that's, to be completely honest with you, out of the 4 players, that's the one I'm a little bit bummed to see leave.
Yeah.
Now with picks are always tough. Let's not forget we did trade Leandro Balmero as well.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Bummer on that one.
The ball boy, whatever.
Picks are always difficult. It's unfortunate that you do trade away your future in a way.
Oh.
However,
we're not getting the same outrage we got from the Minnesota Wild leveraging their future.
The Minnesota Wild leveraged their future for a 1-year winning window.
That's what
the Rudy Gobert trade gives us at least 2 to 3 years of a winning window. It expands Cat and his game. And the picks that we've seen in the past for the Wolves, I mean, I don't want to write Tim Connolly off, but if one of those picks was a Shabazz Muhammad, I'm not bummed to see that pick leave.
Okay.
Now, what Rudy Gobert brings to the Minnesota Timberwolves is a defensive presence in the middle. That doesn't just apply to paint defense. That allows guards to be more aggressive and play better perimeter defense, more on the ball defense on the perimeter.
Okay.
If they get beat, Rudy Gobert is standing in the middle as the best defensive center in the league, waiting for that guy to come at him.
Interesting.
We have the best defensive center in the league and the best shooting big man in the league as well. We have a Twin Towers specialty. Rudy Gobert is also great off the pick and roll, which will help D'Lo in a contract year. And I am extremely excited for the Minnesota Timberwolves, along with the front office of the Minnesota Timberwolves and the majority of Minnesota Timberwolves fans.
Okay.
So I'm going to let you go. I'm going to retort yours, and then you can retort my retort.
Mine is just going to be a series of questions, and Gabe, feel free to chime in here.
Do you want me to answer these questions, or are these rhetorical?
Kobe Bean Bryant, Michael Jordan, Dirk Nowitzki, D. Wade, Steph. There's 5 names there. What do they all have in common? They've all been career players with one team. Minus D. Wade, who left towards the end after LeBron dismantled Miami, right?
And Michael actually played for the Wizards.
After he unretired. What do you think keeps a superstar in his own city long term?
Pieces around him.
The ability to retool instead of reset. Would you agree?
So would you say my answer of pieces around him is correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you need draft picks to do that, right?
Not necessarily.
With a salary cap like the NBA, look at the Lakers right now.
I mean, the Bulls did it pretty much without a salary, without drafting. They went and got Rodman. They went and got Kerr. They went
and then
and
they
got
draft
players.
Well, they drafted all their role players. We've seen that with some of LeBron's
Tony Kukoc
teams.
was a good draft pick, but other than that, I mean,
why do you think
majority of it was actually signings?
Yeah, why would you think that an NBA veteran would give a shit whether it's a draft or a free
Golden
agent
State
signing?
Warriors, one of their best role player this year in the finals was Andrew Wiggins, which
who they traded for,
acquired and didn't draft. So.
Absolutely correct, but they've drafted the rest of their roster. They drafted really well to support Dwayne Wade for a long time. They did the same thing with, as much as they did get free agents to sign in LA, all of their impact role players, LA drafted while Kobe was there.
I mean, Shaq was a pretty big role player that wasn't. I just think there's 2 different roads to meet that finals goal, and everybody it's a sliding scale, right? Some teams are 100% draft, some teams are 100% free agency. Here's one thing that I will say: it's fun to see a Minnesota sports team not just go the draft way.
Totally agree with you.
Okay,
totally agree with you. The other part of this is, who do you think is a more valuable asset to this team long term? Karl Anthony Towns or Anthony Edwards?
Give me your long-term timetable.
for the betterment of the franchise 5 to 10 years down the line.
5 to 10, I'd say Ant. I'd say 3 to 5. It's probably Cat
Okay.
at this point.
That's fair. With that being said, do you know when Ant's contract is due?
I don't know that off the top of
Next
my head.
summer or the following summer, in the middle of when you're going to be paying both Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert and D'Angelo Russell all $28 million plus. So unless you then all of a sudden have to turn around and dismantle one of those three pieces, one of which you just leveraged your future for, you then cannot pay Anthony Edwards.
I can tell you right now, the piece that will be left out of that is D'Lo, 100%. I'd be willing to bet any amount of money that when we go to sign Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell will no longer be a Timberwolf at that time.
And what are you going to get from Cat when you cut his best friend?
I think Cat understands it's a business at a certain point, dude. Like,
Okay.
I mean, if Cat has Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, and role players, a decent point guard, because that's all D'Lo is at this point in time. I don't think Cat's crying if he's got a ring on his finger. I really don't.
That winning a ring in the NBA is tough when you're a small market team. Let's keep that in mind.
We're a
Now,
medium market
last
team.
and not least, the thing that I took the biggest issue with about this entire trade was the fact that the Timberwolves have yet again folded to Cat in his inability to mature as not only a person, but as a basketball player. They brought in Rudy Gobert to play defense and rebound. Cat is a supermax big man who you are now telling him, don't worry about it. You don't have to play post defense and rebound. The same way that they folded to him when they chose him over Jimmy Butler. And if we would have done that, we would have a core right now that looked a little something like Jimmy Butler, Pat Bev, and Anthony Edwards, which I would take over D'Lo, Cat, and Anthony Edwards. I'm sorry. The grit is just there better on that roster. They have time and time again, and Cat is a top 5 big man in the NBA. But at some point, you got to start to hold him accountable for the type of money that you're going to pay him. And I promise you, as much as people think he's going to get less rebounding fouls, less charging fouls, less defensive fouls in the paint now, him uncontrollably rolling downhill or playing on the perimeter is only going to make him softer and worth less than the money that you just signed him for.
3 things. Dirk Nowitzki was an offensive, efficient machine.
Yes.
Didn't play great defense.
Okay.
And he played the 4 because of it.
Yeah.
Tim Duncan and David Robinson, a Twin Towers phenom team in San Antonio to the start of Tim Duncan's career, was ridiculous to go against defensively, even though Timmy D wasn't great at defense.
Yeah.
Because he could go out on the high block or the perimeter, almost let his guy pass him, understanding that he had someone, the Admiral,
Totally
down
gotcha.
low, and now Cat has the same thing. So
Gotcha.
even if Cat gets beat on the perimeter, I'm really not worried about it because his guy is going right into Rudy Gobert. The third thing is a quote from Tim Connolly, the guy we just paid a lot of money, millions and millions and millions of dollars to do this job.
Yep.
So this is a quote from the president of basketball operations for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's a near perfect fit. We think Jaden McDaniels can be an all-league defensive player, and now we just got the best defensive player in the world. So that gets you pretty excited. With Jaden McDaniels, Rudy Gobert playing defense, Cat as the most efficient big man offensively in the league, you have Anthony Edwards, who's a great star. I see where you're coming from because it was my initial reaction. As you go further into this trade and see how they're actually going to play together and gel together, I'm very excited for this Timberwolves team. Last week, I said 5 seed was kind of the benchmark, or waterline, I think was the term that you used. I'd say 4 seed at this point. We're looking at home court advantage as the goal this year in the playoffs. You get home court, that helps you win round 1 easily.
Okay. The only other things that I have to say on this specific topic for this trade, when was the last time, and I'm talking 10, 15-year period, and let's subtract Giannis's Milwaukee Bucks, because Giannis is a point forward, not a paint presence. He's not a back-to-the-basket player. When was the last time an NBA team won a championship with 2 big men? Like 2 true 7-footers.
The first one that pops to mind, without referencing internet in any way, shape, or form, would be the Detroit Pistons. That's going to be 2004, 2005, so about 15 years ago, 17 years ago.
It's been a long time.
It hasn't been done effectively since then either, though.
But
So
teams
it's
have
not-
tried. Many teams have tried.
Can you give me one or two off the top of your head?
Andre Drummond, his Pistons team had it for a while. The Clippers had Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan in Lob City for a while.
I would take Cat and Rudy Gobert over Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan. Though. That's my point. It's
No,
like
I
both
totally
of these
get it.
guys are 2 top 5 players at their position, and I don't think that has been replicated to that extent.
For sure. The Lakers had a hard time doing it with Bynum and Gasol.
Right.
Philly can't do it right now with Embiid and Tobias Harris. It's a very, very difficult to win when you have 2 big men. And then the examples that you gave me of Nowitzki and Duncan, I think everybody out here can agree that the basketball IQ and maturity of those 2 legends dwarfs what we get from Cat on a night in, night out basis. And that, I believe, is the difference.
I wouldn't disagree with you. I think that's one of the reasons they made this trade is they're going to free up Cat and basically allow him to focus offensively because now he has a big man behind him who can play that defensive role. Now Cat can be more free on the offensive side of the ball, not have to worry about defense as much. I think you see a very efficient, prolific, possibly scorer out of Cat this season.
I get it. On the offensive end, that's great. We live in an offensive NBA. But if you're going to sit here and tell me that I wouldn't have gotten probably not 3-time defensive player of the year level talent, but something very effective and efficient in a 2-man team between Vanderbilt and McDaniels over the next 3 years at a much less expensive price than what I'm going to get for
it's a
for
worse
Rudy
product at a
Gobert.
cheaper price. Yes, it's a worse product at a cheaper price.
And they would have only gotten better. Gobert is at his ceiling, if not ready to start taking steps back as the league gets faster and more explosive and he gets older.
Let us know what you guys think about the latest Minnesota Timberwolves trade. They did make one other acquisition. Do we want to talk about Kyle Anderson at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a wise move. He plays the 4 well defensively.
I think with the way that trade was done and this move was done just prior to it, you can almost throw Kyle Anderson in that trade talk, right? So, like, in theory, you went Rudy Gobert and Kyle Anderson for what you traded away, right?
Sure.
And that makes the trade even more appealing to me. Kyle Anderson can come off the bench, can come in and play some good defense.
Yeah.
He's 6'8", 6'9", and long. I think it's a really good role player. Don't forget, we do have Jordan McLaughlin, whom I'm actually a big fan of, coming off the bench. Great pick and roll player in himself.
Yep.
Running that with Gobert. I'm very excited for the Timberwolves this year. You guys will have to let us know what you guys think.
I think that's going to be part of the formula for the small ball lineup. I have seen some things on ESPN. Now, listen, I'm not all pessimist, right? I'm just pointing out the holes that we may see in advance, right? That was my argument with the Gobert thing. You and everybody on sports media. Hey, there's going to be a lot of issues when Minnesota goes to play a Golden State team or a Memphis team, very small ball, very fast, up and down the floor. I think that's when you see Cap move down to the 5. You have McDaniels or Anderson playing the 4, Anthony Edwards at the 3. You know what I mean? There is a rotation there that will allow them to compete with that team and still score.
I think the argument of us going up against small ball lineups is a valid one. However, 2 things. Gobert moves a lot better than people give him credit for.
He's no dancing bear, but yeah.
And 2, it can also be intimidating for a small ball lineup to face 2 7-footers on the inverse. If you slow the ball game down and make sure that you're efficient on the offensive side, they have to hit their threes or else you're going to win that ball game.
True.
So it could go either way.
True.
It's a double-sided coin.
All right, so what are the Timberwolves' chances, or what are their odds now moving forward to win a title? You think final? Like let's look at the next 3 years. 2-year deal for Anderson, 3 years for Gobert. Cat got a 4-year.
I would go as far as to say the Timberwolves' odds to win a title in the next 3 years is the highest it's been since 2004 with KG.
Okay.
And Spreewell and them. When was the last time you felt this good? Well, I guess you don't feel very good.
No, listen, I do feel good. I just think and everybody on mainstream media has said it as well. The price tag that was given up was too high. Sorry.
We'll see.
I like the team. I think they'll be 3 or a 4 seed this year.
Did you hear how Connolly basically explained the price tag? He knew what he wanted, and he knew he could afford it, is basically the term that he used.
He knew after having 60 days with the team, not being here to see these guys play or to check out the locker room culture, that getting rid of Pat Beverly, the guy that helped turn this team around last year, was something he could afford. To leverage 4 first-round draft picks of guys in a young core, something that you said last year was the antithesis of what was going to be the Timberwolves' success, was something he could afford. I'm sorry.
I'm not worried about a first-round draft pick in 2029. It's 2022. We have a winning window now.
How about the 2023, 2024, and 2025 one we gave up?
The 2024 is actually a swap.
I'm just saying.
2023, 2025, 2027, and the 2029 is actually top 5 protected as well.
Okay.
It's once you get into it deep, it's not as bad as it seems. Plus, in theory, we should be drafting at 22, 23, 24, 25 next year.
Mm-hmm.
In theory, if we have a good team, which we should. And is the 28th pick worth giving up for a run deep in the playoffs? I don't know.
Can I break in quickly to just to point out, we talk about, or at least I definitely talk about how Cat is like a crybaby type guy.
Yeah.
And that one of your arguments during this was, how do you think Cat's going to feel if he loses his best friend to play with?
Yeah.
Like we have normalized his fucking crybaby shit now. It's just amazing.
You've only empowered him more.
Some of us have.
His best.
You've done it.
I've never heard that in a sports
I don't think making a professional personnel move will irritate him to the point that you're thinking it will.
Not getting him when he went to Golden State versus coming to Minnesota almost had him not re-sign the last time.
That's probably the guy who keeps him from crying most games.
Good Lord.
We'll see.
All right, but yeah, I think it's a 3 seed or a 4 seed consistently through the next 2 to 3 years, and a finals appearance, whether that be of conference or NBA likeness, or this is a flop.
If we don't get to the Western Conference Finals in the next 3 years,
this is a fail.
I will agree with you. Yes.
Do we have? How about this? What are we missing, or do we have the
point guard play?
So I don't. I don't. Championship.
Yeah.
Point guard play.
I don't think Connolly is done. I really don't. I wouldn't be shocked to see D'Lo gone still, if I'm being completely honest.
Is there a guy out there?
Dame.
There's a few, and that's the thing too. Is like if you bring in 2 guys that. One is a point guard that's maybe a little bit better than Jordan McLaughlin even.
We had Patrick Beverly, which, by the way, he could come back.
I would take
he is going to get bought
over Pat Bev, to be honest.
If he gets bought out in Utah, because that's the rumor right now.
Because they don't want him.
And if you're Minnesota, who we embraced him last year, probably I will say better than when he was.
Did you see his tweet? Do you really want to bring him back
Yes.
after he tweeted that?
Yes.
What did he tweet?
Basically, screw Minnesota. Like I gave you everything.
He did. He came in and flipped the locker room, and Conley said, "Fuck you. I wasn't here for that. It doesn't matter." Yeah. So he got upset about it.
So I'm just catching up on that guy.
Your job is to be a professional basketball player, and like, of course, you should, in theory, be boosting the locker room. And if you get traded, it's part of the business, right, Nick?
Do you think this trade makes it? Because the NBA is basically run by the players now, right? Do you think that this move is done in part because it will now attract someone like a Damian Lillard or whatever?
I would not be surprised even to see Gobert go if there is a package put together to bring in a guy like Dame or to bring in like a legitimate top flight superstar. Dame's the only one. Dame's the only one left. But like if somebody were to be like, oh, well, the remainder of those draft picks between 27 and 29 or whatever, and D'Lo and another player, sure.
Would you be behind that at this point, both of you?
Damian Lillard is the best guy in the NBA, personnel-wise, I think, by a mile.
As far as fit?
Well, not only fit, he's great in the pick and roll. He's great in clutch moments. He distributes the ball. And he understands what it's like to be loyal to a small market team. I don't think Dame's going to go to LA or Brooklyn or New York or the Heat or whatever. He's going to go to a small market team that is set to win a championship and try to get it done.
Just so you know, for future reference, Minnesota is typically known as a medium market.
What we don't have a championship. Small market till we get one.
That's not how that works.
It is for me.
I've never even heard the term medium market.
Same.
but you're right. We're the 13th largest metro area.
So, all right. Well, finals or flop, or finals of some sort or flop. Western Conference or better.
And I think we will.
All right.
I truly have faith in this Timberwolves team.
All right. UFC 276 recap. Gabe, did you get a chance to watch the fights over the weekend?
I certainly did.
What'd you think?
It was a very disappointing pay-per-view, I thought. I thought it sucked ass.
You know, there's a lot of people out there that have said this. We can start with Israel Adesanya and Alexander the Great's title defenses, right?
Mhm.
Actually, the other image, Gabe.
Okay.
Volk blanking Max Holloway, who is an all-time pound-for-pound great. The way that he did, I think, has qualified him undoubtedly once his hand heals for champ status. I think it only continues to separate city kickboxing from a lot of the other gyms around the globe right now with the talent level that they have in-house. Not that Max fought a bad fight, but Volk just went in there and busted him up. And Holloway didn't go down.
He looked fucking
overwhelmed.
Like he had Mario Brothers invincibility. I mean, he was so much faster. Like the gap between them was so wide that it actually, in my mind, subtracted from Volkanovski's greatness in a way, because it's like there must be something wrong with Max.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's how far apart it was. It was unreal.
Yeah.
The speed was insane.
Exactly.
I mean, my God.
Now
talking shit immediately.
Oh, for
in
sure.
The fight.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then the Izzy fight, for me, we kind of saw this with Anderson Silva, where his talent level as well is so far ahead, but it's what he puts in front of you with the different variety of striking that he has available. Like, you can't blame Izzy for the performance he put on. You can't. Cannonier stood there like a wet blanket and didn't move. Just because there's no entry points. The Izzy fights damn near perfect from trying to get close to him. His length. I mean, these guys are killers. The guys that Paulo Costa was knocking fools out.
Cannonier's just the look of his strength. Like, I mean, he looks like he could ragdoll any person on the planet.
He fought at 230.
I mean,
he's got knockouts in 3 weight classes.
In that picture, he looks badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm right with you with the Izzy thing. That was my exact take on him. Just that you go, look, man. Yeah, was it a boring fight? Yes, it was.
But he has reached a certain echelon.
He's a counter puncher. He throws those jukes. What is confusing to me is how a guy like Cannonier, who I view as just so powerful, that there's not a point in the fight where he just steps in, and tries to walk through it.
I don't think you can, because I think everybody underestimates how strong Izzy is. We've seen it. When Whitaker walked in on Izzy the first time, Whitaker got blanked.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he, because it's weird, because in the press conference, Izzy was talking about how he couldn't find his power.
Yeah.
He didn't feel like he had it. And it's like, but do his jabs feel that stiff?
Probably.
That he doesn't want to walk in? I just don't know.
I would assume so. I mean, then you got to worry about knees. Like, as a Muay Thai, Israel Adesanya probably has better Muay Thai and kickboxing than anybody in UFC right now.
Right, which makes me more worried to stand at mid-range than step in.
Yeah.
That's why I don't understand why no one ever does. So obviously his jukes or whatever are doing something, to keep him back. But yeah, it's crazy.
And then last but not least, the O'Malley controversy. I want to get your honest opinion on this, because there's a lot of people out there saying, yes, now it's a blatant eye poke. But Munoz was looking for a way out.
I was going to say, how blatant of an eye poke did you think that was?
Well,
that's
the image right there.
Right.
And he got it in both eyes, but during the fight, he was like, my right eye, my right eye, my right eye. He went to the press conference and said it was his left eye.
Oh, yeah. No, I was going to say, I don't believe it was yes, I know there was an eye poke.
Yeah.
But they are professional fighters who are getting kicked in the head. So it's hard for me to go and I get, he didn't even take the full 5 minutes.
No.
He didn't. It looked, he wanted out. Looking for a way out in the biggest way, man.
I think O'Malley was ready to put him down.
So that's kind of my take on this as just a casual UFC fan in general. You're getting kicked in the face with a shin, but you can't get poked in the eye accidentally and keep fighting.
It's very suspect.
The doc left it up to the fighter.
I mean, to be completely honest, though, I almost think a new rule is you get 10 minutes and we're fighting. And if you can't see after 10 minutes, then as long as it's an incidental eye poke.
They're worried about detached retinas and different things like that, because that has happened from the eye poke in the past.
it could also happen with getting a freaking heel to your face.
100% agree with you.
I don't know. I think it's an ultimate fighting championship. That's what UFC
No, I agree.
stands for.
I agree.
And you're going to call a fight because a guy accidentally got poked in the eye.
So what do you do with Sean O'Malley now, Gabe or Mike?
Well, go ahead, Mike, yeah.
In my opinion,
He gets the win.
it's technically, that's the thing. It's technically a no decision. So like if he goes anywhere in the rankings, in theory, he should stay roughly where he is. He could maybe go up one. Exactly, Nick. One. He could
No,
maybe
I
go
meant just
one.
up in general.
Because he didn't knock him out. He didn't TKO him. He didn't finish the fight. He didn't win on points.
He made him quit.
What?
In my opinion.
In your opinion, though, that's the thing. Is it in theory, if you're actually doing rankings correctly, it needs to be based off fact and not opinion. Factually, this was a no decision.
I went and poured myself a rage drink after this happened. So you're kind of making me realize right now that I didn't go back over the first round and watch it again. So I don't really remember what
O'Malley was winning the fight.
Oh,
for
not
sure.
not just
But
winning.
was he
O'Malley
destroying him. I can't remember that.
in the first round of the fight, Munoz had one significant strike landed.
Yeah, it was 10-8, wasn't it?
It was a 10-8 round.
Okay.
Prior O'Malley was leveling him. It wasn't even
For some
close.
reason, I don't remember it being that one-sided, but I do believe you. So yeah, I think he does go up in the ranking because he did make him quit. You know, because clearly the dude was quitting. Yeah. I mean, it
gave
really
up.
was sad to watch when the ref was asking, like, you know, they just kept putting it back in his lap, and you could tell, man, his body language, what he's saying, he was fucking quitting.
Overwhelmed, man.
Yeah, so I mean,
O'Malley's the real deal.
no, he's not.
So do you run it back or do you give him a new challenger above Munoz?
You do not run him
I
back.
still give him.
He's out of the
I
UFC.
even with an objective look, I still give him a challenger above Munoz. Like I said, I think he still goes up, but it's definitely not as far up as he would have if he knocked Munoz out.
No, I agree.
You see what I'm saying?
I agree.
What was
So,
Munoz
like,
ranked?
10,
10?
And what's O'Malley at?
13.
Yeah, so I think you give him 9. And,
Yeah,
and
I was gonna say
put
even
put O'Malley at 10, put Munoz at 11, or
And
something
give-
like that.
give
and
O'Malley
and
7.
Give O'Malley 7 or 8. Sure,
That works for me.
I would be okay with that.
Who's that? Who's that 8? I'm trying to remember what that division is. Is that's lightweight?
That's light.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it lightweight?
It's either lightweight or
funny, I've been in a fight.
featherweight.
My-
Is it featherweight? Because lightweight's Connor's old division. Yeah.
I don't know. Let me see. Pull this up right now. So we got
Aljamain Sterling.
lightweight is Oliveira's division. So yeah,
Yeah, bantamweight.
Oh, bantamweight.
Bantam. There
So
you go.
Dominic Cruz is at 8. Rob Font is at 7.
There's the fight. Rob Font.
Pedro
O'Malley's.
Munoz was at 9.
Oh, okay.
So
No, these are updated. He was at 10 prior to the
He
fight.
went up from that.
he went up from it, and no, he didn't move. So he was at 9 because it shows the movement.
Oh, okay.
So he was at 9 going into the fight. O'Malley was at 13, and they stayed where they were.
That's not right to me. But I would give
But again,
O'Malley
it's a no
Rob
decision,
Font.
technically, right?
Yeah.
So like, I get where the logic comes from of not moving them. It's a no decision.
Dominic Cruz or
I like
Rob Font.
Dominic Cruz, man. I think that is a true like.
That'd
That's
be
a great fight.
I would watch
that's
that
a
fight.
gatekeeper, man.
I would watch
It's
that
a
fight.
name for him if they're trying to build him.
Oh, yeah.
Does
Even
O'Malley take that fight?
Yes.
Frankie Edgar at 10 even.
All right,
I
so
would love to see him
actually-
against Frankie Edgar, like a wrestler type base guy.
Yeah.
I
think
actually
that
want
would
to
be
get
great.
Gabe involved in our argument from this weekend. So Gabe, Nick and I were
Yes,
Nick and I were
let's do
arguing
this.
this weekend.
Mhm.
Nick's take is that UFC currently right now is at the pinnacle. This
No.
is
I said it's in its golden age. WWE Attitude Era, basketball in the 90s to 2005, football from 99 to 2010. Like, there in every sport, there is a golden era where there is an insurmountable amount of talent. It's still small enough to where it's got good roots. It hasn't become, I guess, corporate. It isn't overrun. It isn't anything like that. I think right now we are in that era for the UFC. You look at this current crop of champions, female and male, I would put them up against any selected group of champions across history, and I think our champions right now would win.
I disagree.
Oh,
I also disagree, and that's why I wanted you to involve yourself in this argument.
let's
So,
break it down.
The
Okay.
biggest con that I have against this era is I will give you the fact that the champions are a lot better than their competitors currently.
Yeah.
However, to me, one of the things that leads to a golden era is parity and great championship bouts. So if you're having a great 5-round match between two guys who are both worthy for the belt, that to me is more entertaining and more fun to watch than a guy who dominates and retains his belt through 5 fights.
I had 2 thoughts. Which one of them was that, basically that we don't have these rivalries that are just like defining rivalries. Now,
Sure we do.
Max and Volkanovski was the closest thing we had.
Moreno Figueiredo.
Volkanovski won all
no
3
one gives a
fights.
shit
How is that
about
a rivalry?
the
Are you
super light-
Have you watched those fights?
about featherweight? But this is just like boxing, right? How that, and this was my other thought, is as the heavyweight division goes, so goes the rest of the league.
Okay.
And we're not there with UFC. It's just not there.
It's
We don't
on
even know.
hold. It is
Mhm.
definitely there. You think between John Jones, Francis Ngannou, what are some of the names?
Cyril Gane.
Cyril Gane,
Mhm.
Tai Tuivasa,
Yep.
Stipe.
Stipe Miocic.
Mhm.
Who's the? I'm thinking of Derek
Derek
Lewis, who's got a ton of knockouts. You think that
When is John Jones going to fight?
he's scheduled to fight either
When is
this winter or
Ngannou
next
gonna fight?
spring? Same thing.
I don't know. To me, the golden age
That's
of
just
heavyweight fighting in the UFC, though, was more Frank Mir, Brock Lesnar.
But those guys
don't know
would
if
get
we'll fight.
wiped by the guys we have now.
I still think that. Well, yeah, but that's because the
You give
sport
me
evolves.
Ty
My point
Tuivasa.
exactly.
You give me Tuivasa
Well, then it's
versus
always gonna be the
Lesnar,
golden
though.
age.
I don't think Tuivasa has a fun time. I
Yeah.
really don't.
I don't think Tuivasa is that level. I think that Stipe is past, even though he's great. I think he's just past.
I'd say there's 1 or 2 guys in the heavyweight division now that would be fine
Cyril
back then.
and John Jones would be awesome. I mean,
Yep.
if those guys were active,
And that's the thing.
I
is
think you have a point.
I think the talent level is there, Nick. I think the top end talent is maybe better than
It's
been.
ever been.
The very, very tippy top 1 and 2.
Yeah, and
But-
that means
but
going to
that-
make everybody else have to chase.
Okay, but if the parity, if the difference between 1 and 2 is so great, it's actually worse for fans, is what I'm telling you. So it doesn't actually lend into the golden era.
I would disagree with you. And by the way, when I say era, I'm not talking about our current. I wanted to make something very clear. If you take from the moment that Conor won his first title to now, is what I was more referring to.
I don't know, man.
The
UFC had a
explosion
lot of-
that was the UFC.
Yeah, it was due to Conor. Yes, I understand.
Not just
but
Conor.
It was due to Conor.
If it was just due to Conor, when Conor left, the sport would have wilted, and it didn't.
It's because he brought people's attention to the sport, Nick.
Not just the UFC. He brought attention to kickboxers like Izzy that were eventually going to come in.
But
Alexander Volkanovski was in Pride
brought
before
it
he came
to
in.
UFC, Nicholas. The viewership of Pride did not boom with Conor McGregor.
No, I'm not
Stop
saying
it.
that, but the attention paid to fighters outside the
attendance at
UFC.
Kickboxing tournaments did not boom with Conor McGregor.
Hold-
The viewership in the UFC boomed because of Conor McGregor.
So don't I guess, and maybe I'm too old to be in this argument because I start melding together eras, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, to me, the first golden era that you think of, well, actually, I go way back. So, like, at its infancy when it comes up and Liddell and stuff was so huge.
Yes,
There was so
absolutely.
many of these big
Sure.
rivalries it felt like back then. But I don't know.
BJ Penn.
But you know,
Are
Go
the
ahead.
pay-per-view sales at the top of
Yes.
what it is right now?
Yes.
Well, like, I mean, I know it is in volume. I mean, I guess if there's a more comparable metric, I guess, like as far as that stuff goes. 'cause
Gate
I'm wondering
sales? they're
the people who are
selling
selling
everything out. Everywhere they go, they're
I think
selling
the
everything
popularity
out.
of the sport is definitely increased.
Yeah, I do
don't
too.
necessarily think that means that it's the golden era of the sport, though. I really don't.
I think we have reached a different, like, one of the comparisons that I draw, and like, yeah, I'm a big Conor fan. The sport changed in the 2 years he was gone. Conor left as the most dangerous man in the game. He came back and has struggled. Why? Development of leg kick, better grapplers. You talk
Maybe
about
because he took 2 years off.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well, but you can't disagree that the leg kick wasn't around when wasn't as prevalent when Conor was coming up.
I
The
disagree,
game has
dude.
changed.
Go watch
Look
UFC 1, and the dude was throwing leg kicks like crazy. His name was
Yeah.
Grace Gracie.
One guy. One guy,
You
Michael.
can't
That's
say
like
that the
Babe
leg
Ruth.
kick was like a new thing when Connor left.
I'm not
though.
saying it's a new thing. I'm saying it's been adapted.
How about? Well,
Chael
sorry.
Sonnen goes on did a rant on this on his podcast 3 or 4 weeks ago and said, listen, UFC used to be you were a master at one thing and you would choose your matchup based on being a master of that one thing and see how far it would take you and you weren't sharing your secrets with anybody. You put some of these guys now that have Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu and boxing and wrestling and all of these other tools together and are sharing, learning, and growing as a gym. Very evident by like Top Team or City Kickboxing or whatever the case may be. It's just different. The game has erupted. It's kind of like when the NFL went from nobody shares any information to Tom Brady was sharing plays with Peyton Manning. And then all of a sudden we saw this revolution in the way that quarterbacks operate offenses. You can't deny that has aided in the growth of football.
What are we arguing here, though? Because I thought you were asking if it's a golden era.
That was my question.
But if you look at these champs that are on the board right now,
yes,
which one of those guys do your friends geek out about or go crazy? Like, there's no Conor McGregor,
Izzy, Kamara, Amanda Nunes.
I know their skills are there. I'm saying, like, honestly,
Kamara's a pound for pound.
People love them as much as they love these champions of the past. Because, like,
yes,
Conor,
I do. I really do.
You think one of these guys sells as many tickets as Conor?
Izzy does. Yes.
No way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No way. He does not. He does not engender the love that that what Conor did. I'm not even a Conor. I don't love Conor, but I could see people went nuts for him. I hear so much people who don't like him, and I like Izzy a lot. And I feel like he does something that repels people. And I don't see a Ronda Rousey. I don't see a Conor McGregor. I don't see
about to bring
a
up
Brock
that name
Lesnar.
too.
Like,
when Ronda,
it's an American bias.
Okay, when Ronda was there was one weight division for women. Okay,
there were two.
Yeah.
She was in two of them.
Okay, but now there's 6. That's the other thing. You go back to Frank Mir and Chuck Liddell and these other things. There were 6 weight classes. There's 8 to 10 now
for women.
Right,
Straw, fly,
that would
bantam, and feather.
So does that?
I would say that's watered down then.
Does it expand things? Yeah, but then you're getting exposure to other guys. You want to talk about these legendary rivalries? A lot of those only happened because there were guys that were stuck between weights that had to fight at a specific level. You'll see it over time. Guys that Kamara has just dwarfed over and over and over and over again. Eventually, somebody's going to come into the 170-pound division like Khamzat Chimaev and be like, this isn't the case anymore. All ships rise on high tide. It may not be immediate, but the talent level of the sport based on the champions that we have now is only going to make the UFC even bigger. Think about it. The Rock and Dwayne Johnson paved way for Triple H and John Cena and all of these other superstars. Why? Because there was an expectation. There was a bar set that everybody had to get to. That's what we're experiencing right now.
See, I think that's, I don't know. I disagree. I mean, if we're going to go down that tangent, it wasn't necessarily The Rock. You're going to just dismiss Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan and all of these huge, massive stars that
when they were a regional company.
Bro.
So
there were absolute national stars that made wrestling what it was so The Rock could come in and fill that role.
I agree. And that would have been Frank Mir and Chuck Liddell and Vitor. Those guys. Sure. But that was before USADA was testing and all of this other stuff
that we're trying to make here and not, Gabe, please.
Yeah.
Because we're not staying on point here.
I feel like we're having two, because I agree with you, Nick. The skills are better than ever. I agree that the sport is more popular than it's ever been because it's on the way up. It's a rising sport.
Yep.
So I totally agree with you on that. I'm just saying that to call it a golden era is defined by rivalries and by great champions. And I know that these guys are that skill-wise, but I don't feel like they have that aura or that thing like Larry Holmes is a great champion. He doesn't have that aura that Mike Tyson has.
To prove this argument, you just said 7 minutes ago that the golden era for NFL football was 1999 to 2010.
Yep.
And yet the Super Bowl last year was the most watched Super Bowl ever. So viewability and popularity does not necessarily correlate to golden era.
Or your age, man, because it's funny. I hear that era and it's like, what? Like,
I don't know if I would say, Yeah, 97 to
When people could still hit 2010.
2008, 2009.
And I'm older, so it's like I go back to like what? Like Joe Montana
Yeah.
era. Like, I mean, that's when I think of
And
it.
we just didn't get to experience that blessing.
Yeah, that's true
That
too.
was Joe Montana.
That's true
So.
too.
All right, well, let us know what you guys think. Is the UFC currently, as of right now, in the golden era of the sport?
I can't wait to hear what people say.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear the responses.
Great.
I really am.
Yep.
All right, with that, we will transition into the AFC West predictions as we continue going through the NFL.
Bro.
How many divisions do we have left? Is this it?
Well, we have the South, AFC and NFC South, and that's it.
Okay, we're getting close.
Getting close, which means the NFL season is just getting a little bit closer. By the time I think we're done with this, we'll actually be like 30 days away from NFL regular season football. I think we end this series as camp opens up.
We'll talk preseason a little bit at that point. Yeah, kind of. It's almost like we planned it out that way.
We're a professional show, regardless of what all of you assholes on TikTok think. But
I call you bassholes. Thanks, Gabe.
We can start. Man, this division,
Will devour itself.
this AFC division, I don't have a single team below 500. I don't have a single team 2 games below. Like, I have each team in this division 2 games above 500, and one of them is going to have to finish in last place.
Yep.
This is I'm going to make a crazy prediction here. This is the greatest division I will probably witness in my entire lifetime. From top to bottom,
This is
all
the
4
golden
teams.
era.
Stop.
This is the golden age of
No.
the AFC West.
1 year. I think there's
It's
a year
probably going to be
here.
the best division in football ever, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah.
To be honest, yes.
Oh yeah. So
Top
let's
to
start
bottom,
with
top
let's
to
start
bottom.
let's start with the Chargers, and then hey, quick round of applause to the social media teams for putting out schedules that looked good that we could use on this show. So I didn't have to make them. Congratulations. Keep doing what you're doing. Rest of the NFL, fucking take notes. Weeks 1 through 5 for the Chargers with a lot of additions this year, like Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson. They bring a lot of their other pieces back. They improve the O-line for Justin Herbert. They open the year at home versus Vegas. They go on the road to Kansas City, at home versus Jacksonville, and then 2 road games, Houston and Cleveland. Mike, how do you got them starting?
I got them 4-1.
Okay.
With a loss on the road to Kansas City. I think a lot of the AFC West games, other than Kansas City, are going to be basically who's playing at home that week.
Okay.
So Las Vegas coming to Los Angeles. I think it goes to Los Angeles. Jacksonville, I think, is just a not as talented team. That's going to be not close game. Same thing with Houston. Cleveland is going to be interesting, but Cleveland is now basically going all in on Jacoby Brissett, and I don't think that's going to be super successful. So 4-1 to start the season.
Okay, I got them at 3-2. I actually think they open the year with 2 straight losses. I think facing a good pass rush, which we know Chris Jones can provide, and which we know Vegas will most definitely have.
Chandler Jones, right?
Yeah, Chandler Jones and Max Crosby very early in the year against a younger or offensive line could pose some problems. And I don't think that Staley will have all of it ironed out with that defense and the additions that they have in weeks 1 and 2. And those defenses or that the offenses that they're playing are very good. So I will give the nod to Vegas and Kansas City to start the year. But then they'll beat very easily Houston, Jacksonville, and Cleveland. Okay. Next stretch on the board here would be week 6 through 12, where they go home, or they have a home game against Denver and Seattle before they get their bye. Then they get a road trip against Atlanta and San Francisco. Then they have a home game versus Kansas City and a road game against Arizona. Mike, how do they finish this stretch?
I'm going to say they finished this stretch at 4-2. They beat Denver at home Monday Night Football. That's a very close, good game.
Okay.
I think Herbert earned some flowers there as just a developing quarterback in the NFL. Seattle, that's a rough team. We've talked about that. They go into the bye week with 1 loss. So I have them 1, 2, 3, 4, 6-1 going into the bye week. They come out of the bye week, defeat Atlanta. Again, just not a great team. I don't think the Marcus Mariota play action game is going to be effective against Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. I think that's going to be a rough one for Atlanta.
You might need a padded chin strap.
San Francisco on the road. I'm going to give my nod to San Francisco on that one.
Oh, okay.
And then Kansas City is that one team that I think can actually come into Los Angeles and walk away with a win. So
Wow.
and then Arizona, I think Los Angeles takes it to Arizona in there. So I have them 4-2 during the stretch, losses to San Francisco and Kansas City.
Only loss I have on here is San Francisco. I think it's going to be easy for them to beat Atlanta coming out of the bye. And then that San Francisco game. Listen, they got a lot of their good games, their competitive games at home in this stretch. They get Denver at home. They get Kansas City at home. You know what I mean? So like they're two real worrisome games they do get in this stretch at home. When they have to travel to San Francisco, that's going to be tough. San Francisco's a rowdy crowd. They got a good pass rush. Shanahan will be able to run the ball, limit a lot of things for Justin Herbert. I would give them a loss there as well. So 8-3 for that stretch in the schedule. And then third set of games, they have at Vegas, home against Miami and Tennessee, at Indianapolis versus the Rams, and then on the road to end the year against Denver.
So surprisingly, I have them losing to Vegas here.
Okay.
I actually have them losing to Tennessee at home as well.
Okay.
And then what I'm going to say is that the next two games against Indianapolis and the Rams are both going to be really good games. I don't see the edge rush for Los Angeles being able to really slow down Jonathan Taylor
Gotcha.
a whole lot. So I think that's going to be a weird one. And with that, I know this is kind of a cop-out, but I'm going to say they lose to either Indianapolis or the Rams. And that finishes them at 11-6.
I also have them at 11-6. I have them losing to Vegas. So when I looked at this originally, I thought they were pretty much going to split.
Vegas
Sweeps LA. And they beat Miami. They beat Tennessee. I think Tennessee at that point in the year going to be a little banged up.
They also bang people up.
True.
Tougher to play them.
However, that defense has taken a step back, I believe, this year. And the Chargers offense has taken a step forward. Okay. So win there.
Disrespecting the king. It's on you.
I think they lose to Indianapolis. I think they beat the Rams. And then I think they lose to Denver week 18 because Russ is going to be doing everything in his fucking power to get Denver into the playoffs. I don't think it's going to be enough. We'll talk about that here in a minute.
They could definitely lose to Denver too. I might have them at 10-7.
So 11-6 for me for the Chargers. To open this, I was like, oh, that might be our division winner. Then I went through the rest of this and went, holy shit, it's going to be a whole lot closer than that.
This is a division that's going to go down to divisional record, points
against. Who's got wins against who?
Close.
Yeah.
So all of those games, that game against Kansas City in week 11 is damn near a playoff game.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun to watch these teams this year.
Absolutely. All right. On to Kansas City Chiefs. Lots of changes, but a lot of the bones stayed in place.
Yeah, I mean, their core, other than Tyreek Hill, is pretty much back.
Yep.
They got Juju, right?
They got Juju.
So it's going to be interesting.
They also got MVS.
I'm more excited to see Juju.
I'm more excited to see MVS.
Okay. So let's start off their season, weeks 1 through 5. First, Arizona, Los Angeles Chargers, Indianapolis Colts, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then finish week 5 with the Las Vegas Raiders Monday Night Football.
Did I just step into Bizarro world?
Yeah.
Mike's reading the schedules? What the fuck?
I'm dodoing post-production. I'm reading the schedules.
Look at the personal development on Mike this last week.
So what do you have him finishing through 5, Nick?
3-2. Wins against Arizona and the Chargers. Obviously, going back to our last schedule breakdown there. And then losses to Indianapolis and Tampa Bay. I know this isn't an Indy segment, man. Indy seems to keep popping up in all of these different divisions that we've done so far.
I don't Ryan quite a bit.
I don't have them losing a lot of games. That defense and that running game is really good. If they sign a single receiver,
it's a good formula.
They're a playoff team.
Yeah.
So losses to Indy and Tampa for very similar reasons. They have really stingy defenses. They can run the ball really well.
Turn the ball over.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, both of those games being played on the road, and then they have a home game against Vegas, which they will win. So
I have them at 4-1.
Yep.
I do think Indianapolis is going to be a weird one for them, but Kansas City's ability to score pretty much at will against pretty much any defense.
Interesting.
I mean, out of 5 years of Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah.
We've seen him truly like shut down, I want to say maybe
Twice.
two or three times. Yeah. So I don't care how good your defense is. The odds are not in your favor to stop that man. So I'll go 4-1. And their losses at Tampa, Sunday Night Football. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. Tom Brady's just one of those guys who's just going to find a way. 31-28 last second field goal win for Tampa, something like that.
Bring out the golden shovel, Tom. Bury the young bucks.
It's just like that sometimes, isn't it? So going
All right.
into the second segment.
Yeah, second stretch of the schedule, we got at home versus the Bills. They go on the road to face San Francisco before they get their bye. Then they come home to take on Tennessee and Jacksonville before they go on the road to face the Chargers, and then end this stretch at home versus the Rams, which I think is a schedule break, if you ask me. Mike, what do they do?
So I actually have them losing to the Bills, losing to the Niners. So they go into the bye week sitting at what, 4-3?
Yep.
They come out of the bye week. They do defeat Tennessee. They beat Jacksonville handily. I'm sorry, Jags fans, like Duval. The Chargers, that's a good one again. That's a road game. Yeah, I'm still going to go Kansas City. They're probably the one team that could sweep those good teams in the AFC West this year.
Yep.
And then at home against the Rams. That is a fun game, man. I'm pretty sure I went Rams during our Rams segment, so I'll go Rams in that one.
Okay. So I have them losing to Buffalo. I'm sorry, that team is a wagon this year, and they're going to be really good. Okay. They'll beat San Francisco on the road. I think the lack of defensive backs against San Francisco is going to be a problem against Kansas City. We saw that in the Super Bowl. We'll see it again here. And they may have Trey Lance playing, and he's going to have some rookie hiccups as well. Then they have a bye. They'll beat Tennessee. It's impossible to beat Andy Reid coming off the bye. If you don't know what his record is, go look it up. It's impeccable. They'll beat Jacksonville. They'll lose to the Chargers on the road, and then they will beat the Rams because they get them at home 7-4.
All right. And then the third stretch, weeks 13 through 18, is going to be Cincinnati at Cincinnati, Denver at Denver, Sunday Night Football. Houston in Houston, at home against Seattle, at home against Denver, and then finish the season week 18 on the road in Vegas. What do you got them doing the last few weeks?
Well, I told you they were going to beat Cincinnati because I was dinging it, and then they go and take on Denver, obviously. They lose there. Russell's going to be doing everything in his power to keep them in it late, especially playing in Mile High, removed from their bye. They may be a little banged up there. Easy wins against Houston, Seattle. They'll beat Denver in the home game, and then they will lose to Vegas at the last in the last game of the year, week 18. They finish 11-6 as well. So tied with the Chargers.
So I actually have them falling to Cincinnati in Cincinnati.
Oh, weird.
I have them.
That's a contradiction.
I have them falling to Denver in Denver week 14, Sunday Night Football, and then winning out. And that puts them again at 11-6.
Nice.
Here's the thing. Okay, so if it's contradiction in Cincinnati week 13, then I'll say that they lose to Vegas week 18.
That's fair.
Because like that's the thing with these games is the margin for error is so small. Let's say I bet on Kansas City 51% and Cincinnati 49% in week 13, and if I'm wrong, same bet week 18 type thing.
Sweet.
Like it's too close to call almost at times. So 11-6 though is my record prediction here in the early part of July when we don't know who's playing for either team.
I got you. Now I'm going to challenge your host skills. I got to piss like a racehorse. Tell everybody about the changes that the Denver Broncos have made, and I'll be back by the time you break down the first part of the schedule. Fair?
Okay. So, I mean, the biggest change that the Denver Broncos have made throughout this season or throughout the offseason is going to be the quarterback change. Bringing in a potential future Hall of Famer in Russell Wilson will vault that team. I predict them to be in the playoff hunt for the AFC West. And we'll kind of start the schedule breakdown here without Nick, weeks 1 through 5 for Denver. Surprising. Russell actually gets Seattle in week 1. And I'm not sure if that's home. That's actually away. So he goes back to Seattle week 1. It's going to be a fun game. Seattle doesn't have a team that's going to be putting up much of a fight, unfortunately. So Russ takes that one pretty easily, in my opinion. And then the next week, they go back to Denver to face Houston, at home against San Francisco, on the road against Vegas, and then at home against Indianapolis to round out the first 5 weeks. I'm going to say that they are sitting at 3-2 at this point in time through 5. The Seattle game should be a very easy one for Denver. There's my trusty co-host. The first one's going to be very easy for Denver in Seattle. I just don't see Seattle putting up much of a fight. Rashawn Penny might have a good game, but other than that, it's not going to be good. Houston's not a good team, no matter how much Nick loves Davis Mills. He's not the future in Houston, in my opinion.
Davis Mills alone.
San Francisco, that's their first loss of the season, in my opinion. San Francisco is just one of those teams that can run the ball and chew up the clock, and they're very, very difficult to score on and keep pace with because of that. And then I have them losing to Vegas. That's on the road. I think that's kind of going to be the symptoms of the AFC West is, do you have the pleasure of playing your division rival at home, or are you in enemy territory? And then I have them coming home and defeating the Colts week 5, 3-2 to start off the first 5.
I have them at 2-3. Listen, I want to make this very clear. It's not that I don't have faith in Russell Wilson.
That's who I was supposed to talk about as a big change, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The other one would be Nathaniel Hackett. What has Nathaniel Hackett struggled with as a track record as the offensive coordinator in Green Bay?
Creativity at points? I don't know. Is that right?
I would say creativity. I would also say he has struggled to produce solid game plans against above average pass rushes like San Francisco.
Okay.
So I think there is more questions about him as the head coach than there is about Russell Wilson as the quarterback.
I mean, it's just unproven, right?
Right.
Russ
so
has done it. Hackett hasn't.
can they beat Seattle and Houston handedly in weeks 1 and 2 and look really good? Yes.
They better. They better.
Can they beat San Francisco, Las Vegas, and Indianapolis? I'm not sure, and I think they drop 3 straight games there because those defenses are going to give Russ and that offense a lot of problems.
If they were to defeat one of those 3, who would it be?
Probably Vegas.
On the road? Not Indy at home?
Indy's got good corners. They signed
That's
Stephon
actually why
Gilmore.
I think they beat Indy, though, is they're going to be coming home from a divisional loss.
Yeah.
Just went down 2-2. I would say Russ is a top 10 quarterback, yes.
10. He is 10.
Yeah, without my list in front of me, I'd say 8, 9 range. Yeah, and I just don't think Russ lets that happen. Going down 2 straight losses, just had a divisional loss on the road. You got to rebound. It's kind of that argument that you've been making this whole time. Russ wills them to that win.
Yeah.
I think that's the first Russell Wilson win.
Mr. Unlimited.
All right, and then the second segment starts off on the road against the Chargers, at home against the Jets, on the road in Jacksonville.
Bye.
Bummer, you guys got to go to Jacksonville. There's a bye week on the road in Tennessee, and then at home against the Raiders. Is that week 12? Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, week 12 is against the Panthers there, bud.
Yeah, they got to go see Baker.
Yeah, they got to go see the Bake Show in Carolina. I've got them losing to the Chargers because that's a road game.
Yep.
This division is just going to be carnivorous. For our word of the day today, carnivorous. They will be
the word of the week last week was curmudgeon. The word of the week this week is carnivorous.
Yes. Then they will take the New York Jets and Jacksonville quite easily heading into a bye. Coming out of the bye, they get Tennessee. I was such a coin flip on this because they are coming out of a bye, but they're coming out of a bye and having to go play Tennessee on the road. If I'm not mistaken, Tennessee also has a week 9 bye.
They might.
So I gave them
in the realm of possibility.
I gave them a win, but a slight breeze either direction would push me to one side.
So any wind at all that game.
Yes. They'll then beat Vegas at home and then beat Carolina on the road. They're at 7-4, but they could very easily be sitting at 6-5 if they don't take care of that Tennessee game coming out of the bye.
So I actually have them at 7-4 as well. So the 4 losses thus far, it's going to be San Francisco week 3, Las Vegas week 4, Los Angeles Chargers on the road, and then Tennessee on the road.
Damn, I just noticed I got them on a 4-game losing streak. They lose every game. San Francisco, Las Vegas, Indy, and then the Chargers.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yep.
Okay.
And I have them 1-3 during that stretch. So it's
Yeah.
not much better. Yeah. It's interesting that the NFL is almost this top heavy because you get teams like the Jets and the Jags that if you play an even middle of the road team, you're just going to get shit stomped.
Yeah. If they flop here, the season is done. If they flop at all,
if Denver loses one of those games, they might
it's
be
done.
They're out of it because that division is so tight. But Vegas, they're going to be at home now. I do have them basically splitting home and away. Yeah, and then Panthers.
Or the Panthers. Christian McCaffrey will be hurt.
That's the thing is, if CMC is healthy, that's a good game, but Denver's still.
Yeah. And they have Baker, so
really quick, 10 seconds. Baker Mayfield is probably going to be the starter for Carolina, right?
we have it at the end of the schedule.
Cool.
At the end of the show. Last part of the schedule for them, they go to Baltimore, home to face Kansas City and Arizona, then a road stretch to take on the Rams, the Chiefs, and then they end the season at home against the Chargers. Mike, it's crunch time for Russ.
I got 3 losses here too.
Okay.
Baltimore on the road.
Agree. Better ball control, right? Keep the ball out of Russ's hands.
Rams on the road.
Agree. Better pass rush.
Kansas City on the road.
But yeah,
that's 10-7.
I also have them at 10-7.
So the first 2 are 11-6, and then Denver's 10-7. So
that's going to be tough. Listen, if anybody has the recipe to take down Russ, it'll be the Rams. They've played him twice a year for the last ever.
I think Sean McVay is probably pretty familiar with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and the Chiefs late in the season are a handful.
You're going to go to Arrowhead on New Year's Day. Good luck.
Yeah,
like sorry.
The entire
I don't care who you are or
the entire state will be drunk and happy, and you're going to have a hard time hearing anything. So 10-7. Could 10-7 make them a last place team?
10-7.
See how weird this gets?
I mean, we've done. Yeah. Oof.
All right, let's look at the Vegas.
Does 10-7 give you that coveted 7 seed?
Raiders. So this team, another team that has vastly improved. I think the signing of Devontae Adams, big improvement for him and Derek Carr. The bringing in of Josh McDaniels, big improvement. Not any of the questions that we had about Nathaniel Hackett, right? I think even under Bill kind of took care of the defense.
Oh, they get the Hall of Fame game this year too.
Yep, McDaniels takes care of the offense, right? Which would lend to Josh Jacobs, and then they bring in another pass rusher. Some of their other defensive pieces in the secondary get a year older. Should be a really good team. So they open it up against the Chargers and on the road. Then they get Arizona at home, Tennessee on the road, Denver at home, and they kind of go every other. Then Kansas City, week 5 on the road. Mike?
So I have them literally winning their home games and losing their road games. So
no faith.
Lost to Los Angeles. They beat the Cardinals. Lost to Tennessee. They beat Denver and lost to Kansas City. Las Vegas Raiders team is very much a true pro-style NFL football team. You face teams that have high-flying offenses, examples, the Chargers and Chiefs. I don't think you can necessarily keep up. Because you are very much a team that needs your running back to run for 100 yards, your quarterback to throw for 250, you're very much of a standard NFL team, in my opinion. I think a team that can also hold on to the ball a lot longer than your typical opponent, i.e. the Tennessee Titans, that also kind of throws a wrench in your game plan. So because of the wrenches that those 3 teams are throwing into that cycle that the Raiders are trying to adhere to, I think that those are their losses there. All 3, I would say, pretty close games.
McDaniels should produce a top 5 offense for the Raiders this year. Josh Jacobs?
I would agree, but it's based on efficiency more
Correct.
so than like Carr throwing for 400.
Correct.
If that makes sense.
Because I think Renfro in the slot is going to be a weapon, uncovered by
it's gonna be
Devontae
more
Adams.
so
They got Waller.
yeah.
They got Jacobs. They got a good offensive line.
Yeah.
I
I think it's going to be more so consistency over the season, though. I wouldn't be surprised if Carr throws for 300 every game instead of having that 515-yard game.
And then the
explosion.
150-yard game.
Exactly.
No, I totally get that, but I have them losing to Tennessee and Kansas City.
Okay.
Tennessee early at home, healthy Derrick Henry, just a healthy run game, right? It'll be a little difficult.
It's tough. It's tough.
They beat the shit out of people.
Yep.
Okay. And then at Kansas City, that'll be, I think, McDaniel's first true coaching test, squaring off by himself against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and everything that team has to offer. They lose that game. I expect it to be a close one because without McDaniels, they have competed in Arrowhead before, but they'll lose. Okay.
Agreed.
So next part of the schedule here, they get a week 6 bye, a little bit earlier than some of the other teams in their division. But they go week 6 bye. You get Houston at home, New Orleans and Jacksonville on the road, Indy at home, and then a road trip against Denver and Seattle.
I have their only loss coming in week 11 at Denver.
Okay.
Houston doesn't need to be talked about. New Orleans doesn't need to be talked about, in my opinion.
We forgot that they signed Tyrann Mathieu and Juice.
New Orleans?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. They still have Jameis Winston taking snaps. I don't care. Jacksonville, sorry, you're the
Same.
Jacksonville Trevor Lawrence's right now.
Yep.
Indianapolis, that's going to be a really good game.
Loss.
And the reason I'm going to tip it towards Vegas is because it's in Vegas. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Las Vegas's defense does enough to bottle up Jonathan Taylor enough. Maybe he still has 80 to 90, but Matt Ryan's going to have to come out of his shell and throw a little bit, and I don't think he can do it for him. The at Denver one is tight. Divisional game on the road against Russell Wilson. That's a loss. And then Seattle is just a dumpster fire. So, yeah, I actually have them, was that 6-4?
Yeah.
7-4?
7-4. That's where I have them, is at 7-4. I have them losing to Denver. I have them losing to Indy. Okay. The Indy game for me is because it's going to be a little bit of a trap game.
Do you think it's a higher chance that they lose to Indy at home than it is a chance that they lose to Los Angeles Chargers on the road?
Yes.
Okay.
Here's why. Houston, New Orleans, Jacksonville. Beat them up, beat them up, beat them up. Then you got to go play.
After a bye, too. You have a whole month of basically practice games.
And then you're going to get punched in the mouth.
I see the argument.
By Indy. They'll take a loss there. And then the Denver game on the road, lost pretty handedly, beat Seattle. Listen, here's what I'm going to tell you, because by the time we get through this, some people are going to be very surprised, but it holds true to the prediction that I made when they got Devontae Adams. If they lose to Houston or New Orleans, or they slip up against Seattle, or they don't take the game against Arizona early in the season, that could be the difference for them between first place and the bottom of the division this year.
Yeah, this division is very college football like. Like, you have to win the games you're supposed to win. Yeah. Otherwise, you might just be done with your season in week 4.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, final stretch of the season. They get the Chargers at home, the Rams on the road, New England at home, Pittsburgh on the road, and then they finish with 2 home games, San Francisco and Kansas City. Mike, did they win the division?
Holy crap. I was just counting it. Yeah. Oh, the one I'm tripping up on. So I have them losing to the Rams.
Yep, on the road.
The one that I'm debating on hardest is actually the Week 17 matchup
in San Francisco.
I think that's a really interesting matchup.
Yeah.
Man, I have the Las Vegas Raiders either going 12-5 or 11-6, possibly winning the AFC West this year. I did not think I was going to say that a half hour ago.
Hey, I said that 3 months ago. I said the Raiders will win the division. They will beat the Chargers.
I think the schedule helps them quite a bit.
I have them losing to the Rams. I think McDaniels, if there's anybody that knows where all of the bones are buried in New England's defense, it's that guy. So he will beat Bill Belichick. Then they beat Pittsburgh, who will probably have a rookie quarterback starting
Kenny
at that
Pickett
point in the
should be
year.
Starting by then, yes.
Okay, and then the San Francisco game is the tipping point for me. I think they beat San Francisco. It's a home game. They lack DBs. I've talked about that with them before. That hurts them against Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow. I love their linebacking core. I love their front seven.
So, in theory, with that, you would have Week 18, you would have Kansas City and Las Vegas, both sitting at 11-5, playing for the AFC West division title.
And guess what?
And you have
the Raiders
win
it.
Wow. I don't know if Patrick Mahomes will let that happen either. Even though I said that the Raiders would win that game, I don't know.
McDaniels will take everything out of that loss early in the season. And you won't see certain plays. You won't see certain formations. You won't see certain styles or game plans until the last week of the season. And if you're Kansas City, you're going to be on the receiving end of a very, very aggressive Raiders team.
It's going to be interesting. And this division has me wanting NFL football tomorrow.
Oh.
And I'm not even a fan of any teams in this division.
So as of right now, I have the Raiders at 12-5.
I would say I'm still going to bet on them at 11-6. So I have Raiders 11-6.
I have Chargers 11-6.
11-6.
I have Chiefs 11-6.
11-6.
I have the Broncos at 10-7, and they
10-7.
lose the division.
10-7.
The seller team. I said the same thing 3 months ago. The Rush trade was great for the city of Denver. This was the wrong time to try to compete in this division. Why do you think Aaron Rodgers didn't want to go there?
Here's the thing, though. You're one injury away or one win that you're not supposed
absolutely.
to take. And Denver is a true Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was necessarily the wrong thing to do, but that
it's a bad time.
Word of the day, carnivorous.
Thank you, Mike. That's going to be a good football. Good football. All right, hot corner.
We have about 5 minutes.
Oh, we can do this quick.
So
do you want to do college football realignment, or do you want
to?
It doesn't matter to me. I care about this the same way Mike cared about Pippen Jr. and Sharif O'Neal going to the Lakers. It doesn't matter. You're paying everybody now. It's time to just divide it up by region, and then you schedule it out based on your win and loss record from the year previous. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter.
So one of the things that you said, though, was break it up by region.
Yep.
So the closest road game for these two teams.
They're in California.
The closest road game in division for these two teams is Nebraska.
For me, it should be the Gold Coast division. There should be a Gold Coast division. Oregon, UCLA,
the Pacific 12.
Yes.
Pac-12. Oh, that sounds good. We should name it the Pac-12, Nick.
No, the Gold Coast division. Everybody knows what that is. It's the entire.
Nick, it was the Pac-12.
I get it. I get it. Northwest, South, East.
What I loved about college football, I mean, it's such a fine line. I do think college athletes should be getting paid to an extent. To an extent. You make that university millions of dollars, you shouldn't be able to not afford dinner and eat ramen.
I agree.
To an extent. However, the money game in college sports has, in my opinion, ruined the game. Because one thing that makes college sports so fun is the history, is the pageantry. It's UCLA versus USC. They hate each other. It's for a Pac-12 championship. It's Minnesota versus Wisconsin. It's St. Thomas versus St. John's. And if you're not from Minnesota, it's Johnny Tommy. It's probably one of the most popular college football games there is in this state. And they were Division III matchups. They used to play that game at Target Field, guys, and sell out Target Field. Like
Twins can't even do that.
And now, because of the money, St. Thomas is now a D1 AA school, and they don't even play each other anymore. A rivalry that was around for 110 years or whatever it was is just poof, gone. Like, that to me is sad, and I get it's kind of an old guy's take, but that's what made college football, that's what makes college basketball, that's what makes all of these college sports so fun.
Please go to another subject.
Thank you. Nobody cares.
Oh,
okay.
When you're fucking advocating for the Tommies versus Johnnies,
the division shift
I'm
doesn't
advocating
matter.
for the Gophers to have a shot at a Big Ten title ever, to be honest.
It's over.
And now we have to compete with recruiting for USC and UCLA in division. Like,
sabermetrics.
Done. All done.
Gotta go to sabermetrics.
All done. All done. All right. Can we play a game? Can we play Was the Price Right for the NBA stars? Oh, come on. This is fun.
same thing to you. No one cares.
Well, the only thing left.
Let's talk about Baker.
I want to play my game. I studied
fine,
for this.
Let's play your game that you studied for.
The game that he's fixed for himself.
Yes,
No, it's not.
I made up this game and I studied for it to make sure I won.
It's not
we have
necessary.
to play this game.
Well, I mean, it's my take on the price was right, or the price is right. So obviously, there's a bunch of NBA superstars that got paid. I just want to ask you, over or under, what you like. I'm going to give you a number and a set of years, and I want you to tell me
If that player is worth over or under what the value is.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Okay. We can start with the two-time MVP, the Joker. Okay. 5 years, $270 million.
I'd say dead on.
Dead on?
Yeah.
Good. That's what he got. Very good. Bradley Beal. 5 years, $240 million.
I'd say he's worth under.
Really? Because he signed for 251.
Yeah, that's too high for me.
That's for a Wizards
So
team
for
that
5 years, 250. Yeah, you paid too much.
that's a true supermax
Yeah, that's too much in my opinion.
for a guy that has no help.
Yeah, I would say that's too high.
All right. Devin
Sorry,
Booker,
Wizards fan.
4 years, 200.
So that's pretty dang close to the realm of possibility. I would say, yeah, that's 50 million. Yeah, it's pretty dead on. Pretty dead on.
4 years, 224.
Okay, so they paid him more than that. I mean, it's what, 56 a year? So, I mean, now we're splitting hairs, but yeah, I think he's worth that.
Cat, 1 year, $10 million.
He's worth more than that.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
What do you think he's worth?
I mean, if Devin Booker is worth 56 per year, I would confidently say Cat is worth 40.
Yeah, they gave him 5 for 215. Or sorry, they gave him 4 for 224.
A penny for every tier.
4 for 224.
That's the supermax that we talked about.
56. So yeah, they paid him the same as Booker. So I do think we overpaid a little.
No, the truth comes out.
But
We paid for a used glove sack, is what we paid for.
I think you're going to be shocked at what he does at the 4.5 role this year.
Sure. Zach LaVine, 5 years, $250 million.
That's too much. That's too much.
Okay. It was 5 for 215.
That's more than
Spot on.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. Ja Morant, and this one is where it gets interesting. 5 years, $175 million.
I think that's dead on. To be completely honest with you, with what he brings, I think that is dead on.
Okay.
I think he's a great player. I don't think Ja Morant deserves a supermax.
Wow.
I don't. I think his lack of an outside shot.
Okay, so
doesn't play
let
great defense.
me compare that to this. Zion
So
Williams.
so he signed what? So you said 5 years, 175. I said that was dead on. What did he sign?
I'll get to it after this.
Okay.
Zion, 5 years, 230.
Way too high. Way too high. With what he has shown recently. I mean, what is New Orleans? What has Zion Williamson shown you in the last year other than the fact that he can barely get in and out of the booth at McDonald's?
So both of these guys both just signed a 5 year, $193 million deal. However, Zion being the number 1 pick and Ja being the number 2, if Zion makes an all NBA team in the next 5 fucking years, this jumps up to $230 million. Is there any reason why a guy that can't control his weight or stay healthy or have a fluid jump shot or carry your team to the playoffs like Ja has backpacked Memphis should be making more than a guy who's going to be competing for an MVP trophy next year?
No, there's no reason. It's New Orleans traded away their big man, and now they're basically saying, "Oh, well, he is our guy." Here's a really quick question for you. You pass an entry pass down to the low block to Zion Williamson.
Yep.
And Rudy Gobert is covering him. And Zion's got 10 tries with back to the basket to start.
Mm-hmm.
How many times does Zion score?
5.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't even think it's that many. I really don't.
Steven Adams got bullied, and Steven Adams.
Rudy Gobert is not Steven Adams.
I know.
That is the popular misconception currently.
I know.
I'm telling you though, just wait. I would say maybe 3 times. Maybe 3 times.
By the way, if I was the Pelicans,
Don't forget Zion's 6'9", Rudy Gobert is 7'1", and all of
he is not 6'9". He is 6'6".
Oh, there you go.
Zion is?
Yeah, so Rudy Gobert's got more than a half a foot on him.
Yeah,
You think he scores half the time?
6'6" around.
Yeah, pretty much.
Did you guys see the Zion press conference yesterday, I believe it was?
I did
Yeah,
not.
dude, he grinned at that contract signing like he was getting ready to eat the paper.
I actually thought he came off really well.
He's a
to be
good
honest.
dude.
I
Yeah, he's a
actually-
great guy.
Really
For
impressed.
He's a
how
great guy.
blessed he has been in his life and the things that he's been able to do,
Correct.
he's actually a pretty down-to-earth individual. However, you're a professional athlete, but you can't be ballooning up to 300.
Not only that,
Cannot.
he needs to be playing at 270 and get out of the paint.
Yep, because he does have an okay shot. actually, on
Yeah.
the perimeter. So
I'm on the train.
And he's better downhill than he'll be anywhere else on the floor.
that's a question. I wonder what the 3-point percentage is for Zion, and I wonder what the 3-point percentage is for Ja.
Jaws is higher, but Zion's is pretty good.
It can't be that much higher either.
No. But yeah, it was just outrageous. By the way, if I was the Pelicans, so the only real like
I would
disclaimers,
put a thing in there that like if you don't play 82 games over the next 2 seasons, we can cut you.
I would have had weight checks. Remember
I would have
Albert?
had that
You
too.
remember Albert Hainsworth?
Yep.
I would have done that. I'd have said, listen, you have to come into camp around 280.
Well, I think the Vikings are actually doing a weight check with somebody right now.
Yes. Twyman.
Yep. Jalen Twyman. Yep. Correct.
So you have to come in at 280 at the All-Star break, 280, and leaving the season, 280. If
if you're running up and down the floor all season long, in theory, you should be losing weight.
right. But even then, but I would say if you miss a weigh-in, you got 60 days to get it right. If you re-weigh in and you still can't make it, I'm taking 50%. I don't care. It's for the betterment of the franchise. Yeah, he's fat. Could he jump over me with one leg? Yes. But he's too heavy. He's ruining his own legacy.
All right. And with that, I think we're going to wrap up the show. Quick teaser for everybody out there.
Baker went to the Panthers. Next year, he'll be the best quarterback in that division.
Okay. Back to the quick teaser for everybody. Next week, we will be introducing our
Stat
game.
Masters.
So we're gonna start a new game next week. It's called Stat Masters.
Stat Masters Mind.
Stat Masters Mind. So what we're gonna do is in this segment, Gabe is gonna read off 2 obscure stats. One is gonna be true. One is gonna be false without giving it away of which is which. We're gonna have like whiteboards. We're going to make a pick as to which one is true or false, flip the whiteboard, and then just keep score on basically doing that. We're going to do probably 2 or 3 every episode.
Yep.
We'll do about 10 weeks as a season. We might make them worth like double points or something towards the end of the season.
The Daily
So
Double.
whoever's up at that point isn't technically just winning. But yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be an interesting one. Statistics like if you take away all of Hank Aaron's home runs, does he still have 3,000 hits? Or did you know that Mark McGwire had 115 of his career home runs on Fridays?
Yeah.
It's just stupid, made up, obscure stats to go along with weird, not made up, obscure stats.
James Harden's.
We got to make the choice of which is which.
James Harden 3-point percentage in opening games of the season is 80%.
So,
Wild stuff like that.
Gabe, what do you think? That'll be fun?
Yeah, I'm just wondering why we ran through that right now. But
Teaser for next
It's
week.
a teaser
Tune in.
for next
And
week.
if you have an obscure stat that Gabe can verify,
yeah.
send it
Send
over
it
to
in.
at
I love
NBC.
stat stuff. By the way, love it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
So we'll have that next week. We will also be covering I'm going to go NFC South.
Okay.
Next week as part of our schedule prediction as we also prepare for the MLB All-Star break. We may have Nash Walker back in studio to check in on the Twins and some of the things that's going on in the farm system ahead of the All-Star break. And then I believe we will actually be preparing for the Ryan Garcia fight that is set to take place on the 16th. We'll probably cover that next week on Thursday as well as he continues his rise to stardom against Fortuna, I believe. And I know that's something that Gabe will enjoy. As always, glad to have you guys with us on another wonderful, beautiful Thursday here in the Twin Cities. Mike, if they wanted to share this with their friends or find other places to watch us, where should they go? Follow us.
Yeah, as always, guys, if you are a sports fan with sports friends, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, Patreon, and Twitch. If you want to watch us on local cable, you can catch us on MCN 6. You can also Roku that Saturdays at 10 p.m.
That's right. And like I said, as always, glad to have you guys. Everybody recover from your 4th of July weekend, as next week we will be under the 50-day marker. We'll be in the 50s for days until NFL football. Looking forward to seeing you then.
This is the last month
with no football. Thank God. It has been a long stretch. Everybody take a deep breath. We will get there at some point. Stay safe.